Hey, Gator Nation. Welcome back to Respect Our Decision, Pod of the People, Episode 2. The show where we take your questions and try to give you our answers and hopefully come up with a satisfactory response that y'all like, man. These are just our opinions, not always based on a whole lot of info, but we put the questions out there for you guys and we try to give the best answer possible. And if you haven't caught this yet, Wes puts a tweet out on our Facebook group every week, and I'll start making sure we put one weekly out on Twitter, as well as our community question of the week, which we will answer at the end of the episode and read some of y'all's responses to that. Pretty good responses this week, some not so great, but hey, we're learning to do this together, guys. So we're going to jump right in, man. Wes has got us a whole list of questions from you guys, and we'll see what we can come up with. Wes, what's our first question?
The first question is for Timothy Carter. I'm gonna shoot this one to you first, Hurst. We can all expand on it if need be.
Absolutely.
He said this name for some coaches that we're still in need of. He says it's still Kasu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And Doker. That's the first part of this question, so we can deal with that first.
I'm going to be very, very honest with you. This has been a very, very hush-hush coaching search. Whereas Armstrong's name hit like we talked about last week, in the same tweet as Patrick Toney taking the job, there has been no concrete evidence of any of these two positions being filled by a particular person at this time. I think a lot of people just are taking it as being the easiest thing is to fill from within with some of the guys that we have behind the scenes. But my thought process there is, what's taking so long? If that's the case, that would be something you could have. I mean, Billy, like we said last week, Billy knew these things were happening. They didn't come out of the blue, at least not for him. So he's been on this process now for a couple of weeks. So if you were hiring from within, I don't buy that I believe the tight end coach might be, and I'll let CJ go with the name he's heard the most on that. But I don't necessarily think the wide receiver coach is coming from the current staff we have. CJ?
Yeah, I mean, this is just kind of rumor and hearsay. I have no reason to believe. Nobody's told me this. I don't get. Billy calls me from time to time, but he didn't call me about this one. The name I'm hearing is Ty Darlington. Ty Darlington's already on the staff. So that's, to me, like her said, it just seems like an easy move. And he's expanding on it, and it makes sense what he's saying is, if that was the move we were going to go with, why wasn't it already done? Because it doesn't seem like it would have taken much time to be like, hey, Ty Darlington is the new tight end coach. So if that's the case, that's great. I'm fine with the hire. I don't know. I mean, nothing has been reported. We haven't gotten any hint from any of the major guys. Nothing from Outerman. Nothing from De La Torre. Nothing from Bender. Nobody has really expanded on who it could be. So it makes me believe this is pretty hush-hush, and I'm guessing probably only maybe 2 or 3 people probably know who the hires are right now.
Yeah, back to Darlington for just a second. This is a guy who learned under Lincoln Riley, who came up under Lincoln Riley over there at Oklahoma. So he knows offense. He's very well thought of as a young coach. So that would be a move that would make sense. It wouldn't excite a whole lot of people, obviously, because everybody wants a guy that's a top 25 recruiter at his position and, is the next best thing. But unfortunately, sometimes before you can be the next best thing, somebody's got to give you an opportunity. So we'll just have to wait and see. I would hope that, it's Wednesday, March 1st. Practice starts Saturday. I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something in the next couple of days about at least one of these positions.
Yeah, just to recap what you guys talked about, the timing of these departures is what really hurts.
Absolutely.
and it's kind of hard to prize some guys away. If you wanted some guy, it will be probably some off the field guy. I know, Jeff Scott and Saturday name were first rumored off, but yeah, to what you guys were saying, if it was going to be like an internal promotion from within, it probably would have been done already. So I'm thinking he's putting out some feelers, trying to get some guys from the outside. And if those guys are able to come, basically because of the time, those guys are also getting ready. If it's a college guy, they're getting ready for their spring practices and stuff, and they may feel, hey, it'd be unfair for me to leave right now to take another college job. So that's probably what that is all about. So hopefully we hear some soon with spring practice coming up. The second part of Mr. Carter's question is, he says, how does Hirsch feel about next year and the predictions on Mertz for next year? I'll let you handle that, Hirsch.
Next year, I feel like, man, I want to be a sunshine pumper. I do. I leave that up to Wes. That's kind of his forte, is the hype man. I believe Graham Mertz is going to surprise some people. I really, really do. Josh Pate had a little blurb this week, as he puts out pieces of videos as it pertains to the different teams and segments he has, where he said somebody told him, hey, be on the lookout. Graham Mertz might be the next Hendon Hooker. That's a little far from me. I think that's a little ultra sunshine pumping. As Wes will tell you, he mentioned to us in our pre-show that Joe Burrow, Hendon Hooker, they had 2 years in the system before, it was their second year where they had their huge jump. This is Graham Mertz coming over. Now, Graham Mertz has a lot of experience playing. That can't be, you can't say that's not helpful. He's got game experience and a lot of it. So early reviews have been really positive. The kids that have been out there in their independent throwing sessions have nothing. I know Andy Jean had nothing but great things to say about Graham Mertz. It's wait and see, man. Hopefully spring kicks off Saturday and we start seeing some good clips of some throws being made, and then we'll start lying a little more.
All right. Next one, Christian Bowles, I guess to you. CJ, he said this is very hypothetical. And when I say very, I'm going to emphasize very.
I bet.
He said, but what do you guys think of this scenario? Billy moves to coaching the wide receivers, and we hire a quarterback OC coach, and it seems we have 2 inside linebacker coaches. What do you guys think will happen with that situation?
I don't think Billy's going to coach the wide receivers. I don't think that. I think Billy probably already has a hand in the wide receivers for sure, because he is a former wide receivers coach. So I think that that's something he does already. But I don't think Billy Napier is going to move to the wide receiver spot and go hire an offensive coordinator, quarterback coach, when he still wants to call the plays. That's going to be something hard to sell on somebody. I just don't. That, to me, I don't see a world where that happens. Maybe, that sounds really good in theory, I guess, but I don't think that Billy Napier is going to give up play calling duties, his offensive coordinator duties. So I wouldn't look for that. Yeah, I think we're still a couple of seasons away. I think it will happen eventually, but I think we're still a couple of seasons away from that.
He's got to find his guy, though, for that. I think.
Right.
Either way, he wouldn't be the wide receiver coach. He would be just a CEO type, overseeing everything. So
I mean, it's like you say about Kirby with the defense and Saban with his defense. Billy will always be an offensive mind, and he'll always have that little bit of receiver coach in him. So, like CJ said, he'll always have kind of a, hey, what's going on over there for the wide receiver room?
I could see that more than him. I think your question was more towards him being the wide receiver coach. That ain't happening.
No.
He may, even if he hires an OC quarterback coach to call plays, he's not going to coach the wide receivers. That's not happening.
It'll never happen.
And his second part was about the two inside linebacker coaches. What do you guys see with that situation?
I think what you're going to see with that is I think Armstrong's just kind of going to hover. I don't think he's necessarily going to coach linebackers. I think you're going to see Raymond take the whole secondary, and Armstrong's kind of just going to be an overseer. I'm not going to say he won't spend time with the linebackers if that's his, but as of right now, I just kind of see him being an overseer of the defense.
Yeah. All right.
CJ, you got any thought on that?
My bad. I apologize. Go ahead.
CJ looked like he had a thought brewing.
No, I'm just tired of the joke of, oh, well, we got three linebacker coaches now. I mean, these guys know other parts of the defense besides linebacker. Austin Armstrong wouldn't be hired as a defensive coordinator if the only thing he knew was linebackers.
Exactly.
That doesn't make any sense. He knows other parts of the defense. Did he coach linebackers with Saban? Or is that what he brought him in to do? Sure, that's what he brought him in to do. But before that, he was just a defensive coordinator. So, yeah, I think that's where it's at. I think that he's going to be the defense coordinator. He's going to call plays. He's probably going to give his knowledge here, there, and everywhere on the defense.
A true defensive coordinator oversees every position group.
Right.
It's kind of what we were just saying about Billy being the CEO. He's basically going to be the CEO. It kind of frees him up to be able to do more on the defense and seeing different things that he may not see calling the defense. He may be able to, I'm looking at the D-line now because I already have Bateman coaching the inside linebackers, so I'm not focusing on them. Now I'm focusing on my defense as a whole. Or, hey, Corey Raymond, the safeties, I want them in this position when I call this particular defense, not worrying about the particular line. I'm just throwing out hypotheticals. So I think it's beneficial that he doesn't actually have to be tied in with the inside linebackers when he can focus on the whole defense as an entirety.
Yeah, because say too, though, but in another sense, though, as much as we've complained about the linebackers in the last 4 years, is it really that bad of a thing to have three linebacker coaches right now? I mean, I'm serious.
No doubt.
I mean, we've heard for the last 3-4 years just complaint upon complaint, aside from maybe like one linebacker. I mean, hey, I don't think it could hurt. I think that having two offensive line coaches last year improved the offensive line. So I don't see why it could hurt the linebacker crew, even if he is more specialized in linebackers. That's just me.
No doubt there.
This is from Tim Scott. Getting a DC was way of the most importance for spring. However, a tight end, wide receiver coach also can be brought in after this spring game, unless someone like a coach Scott, I think he's talking about Jeff Scott, whom I don't believe is working at the moment. So I guess he's saying, I don't think he was, Tim was asking a question. I'm assuming he was saying like the DC was more important. Do you guys think the DC getting the DC in here was way more important than a tight end wide receiver coach?
Yes,
absolutely. You got to get that. Make sure that scheme is in place because that affects your whole defense.
Exactly, I'm with you guys.
Like we've already said, Billy can oversee wide receivers and tight ends as far as just coaching them up and whatnot. That's probably not an issue at all. Plus, that's why you have all those staff members.
Right. The last question from my boy Justin Wood. He says, and we kind of answered his first question just now. I'll read it just because you had it here, but we kind of answered that. What's the latest smoke? The next coaches? Who are they going to be? But he says, what are you? His next two questions we can answer. He says, what are you guys looking to see from the spring game?
Growth. I mean, I want to see growth. What I most want to see is these new guys on campus and how they fit in. Who's making moves? We've heard TJ Searcy has really shown out in workouts. We've heard Andy Jean is an absolute monster. You want to see how these new guys fit in with the old guys and how some of the guys that were already on campus fill these positions that these kids transferring out, how these holes get filled.
Yeah, that's the main thing you want to see in the spring is just growth. You want to see guys kind of get in where they fit in. You want to have them ready to go. So you got a lot of freshmen that are probably going to take a lot of meaningful snaps this season. So you want to definitely see that from the spring of where they're going to kind of be placed into different spots in the offense and the defense for sure. And you want to see how, the relationships form with these guys over the spring. And that's one of the main things, is making sure these guys all have a strong relationship with each other.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. I want to hear better things than I heard from AR last year. But it was truth about his inaccuracies. I want to hear some good things about Mertz. What are you guys looking forward to see? Excuse me. Do you guys expect? That's kind of the last question. Is the next guy you guys think will commit in recruiting?
Sheesh. I honestly couldn't even tell you right now, because we have to see how these visits start lining up in March. March is going into spring and whatnot is one of those times where a guy could just get caught up and commit at any time. So it's you don't have any. I don't really see any of those guys that are major leans right now. You could possibly see one of the running backs that we're after commit. I don't believe it's going to be Jarrett Gibson. We meant to talk about that in our main episode, but we didn't. He announced this weekend his official visits, and Florida wasn't on that list, even though he's been to UF plenty. I don't foresee that. He got a prediction to go to Texas this week. So you could definitely see maybe Carey or Gage commit sometime soon if the staff presses. Other than that, it's really up in the air right now.
CJ?
I don't have a name. We're not going to know anything. I don't think you're really going to start to see really heavy leans the guys that were heavy leans with have already committed.
Yep.
So you're not really going to start to see anything to like we saw last year. When you get into the summer, when you start to get into May and June and July, that's when these guys really start to commit, because they're about to start playing football in the fall. They want to go ahead and commit and get their stuff behind them, aside from the select few. But so I think March is going to really start to give us an idea who leans where, and you'll probably start to see guys start committing in April, May, June, and July.
Yeah, I was just going to agree with CJ. Looking forward to see who comes here in March, and now that the day period is over, and seeing.
Uh-oh. Our man Wes is on dial-up. We may have lost Wes.
Spring game and all that stuff, and then Friday.
And there he is.
Yeah.
Sorry about that, folks. Wes had a little bit of a lag up.
Yeah, my bad. I'm just looking forward to the spring game and seeing who's visiting through March and our Friday Night Lights and those things. That's when we start to see who we're trending for and who's leaning our way, and then that's when we will have a lot more information. I'm just happy this is the best time of year for us as far as recruiting podcasts.
Yes, sir. Names will start flying here very shortly. All right, guys. You know what? Justin Wood put in one more question this evening, and I wanted to throw that one out there as well. He put out on our Facebook group, what position battle are you guys most looking forward to this spring? And I wanted to make sure, because that's actually a really good question, Justin. Thank you. You always ask really good questions, and we appreciate it. So, Wes, what's a position battle that you're looking forward to this spring?
Offensive line in its entirety. I could have gone DBs because that's going to be fun to watch as well. I think that'll be more.
Say defensive line.
No, because I think we got our ends and we know who our D tackles is going to be. Watson and Jackson, and I can see Powell and
McClellan.
Princely. No, Princely.
Oh, I figured you're going to be big on McClellan making a move.
Nah, I think Jackson will start with Watson in the inside, and I see Princely and Powell on the outside. So I think that's kind of solidified. But I want to see these battles. I think the DB will be more fun, but I think the O-line, to see who win those positions, because we lost everything except for center on O-line. So I want to see how that shakes out.
CJ?
I'm going to say that, I know it's boring, but I'm going to say the offensive line too. I think that's the main position battle you look at. because of bringing in Micah Mazuka and you bring in Goodwin and you bring in Damian George. You bring in those three guys now to add them to the already kind of full offensive line room, because you've got the freshmen who come in. You've got Farmer from last year. You've got Najee Harris that came in this year. You've got Lovett.
A lot of good names.
You've got Roger Kearney who's come in this year. They're going to be fighting for that spot. Not to mention you still have Kingsley at the center spot that's still going to be fighting for his spot. You've got Austin Barber on that line. So I think that it's really easy to look at the offensive line and say this is where we're going to see the most interesting position battles, because I'm eager to see how all this lines up, because right now you kind of can pencil in a few guys. This guy's definitely going to start, like Barber and Mazuka, and I think those are the two right now everyone can agree on. Those guys are probably going to start, and the rest of that line's got to kind of fill itself out. So I'm eager to see what happens there. I think the offensive line is definitely the most interesting battle in the spring.
I'm going to stay on this side, on that side of the ball. And even though I'm getting kind of cheated because Eugene Wilson's not on campus yet, I'm going to say the wide receiver group. I think there's some real, besides Ricky Pearsall, who we obviously know is wide receiver one, no matter where he's lined up. I think spots are there to be had. And if it's truly a best man, first come, first serve kind of opportunity, you could see some real battles at the wide receiver position. We've heard, like we said a minute ago, Andy Jean is as fast as he can be and 200 pounds already ready. Looks like he could play tomorrow. It's just, it could be a good time. You're going to find out who really use the offseason here, the first part of the offseason to determine, it's my time. Maybe this is the time we see a Marcus Burt say, it's finally time for me to take this game serious, and I want to be starting next year. So we're going to find out real quick if some of these kids have made that mental jump as well as, the physical jump. All right, guys, like we said, that'll do it all for our regular questions, and we really appreciate y'all sending those in. Make sure next week when you see the Pod of the People questions out there, if you have something you want us to talk about, maybe mention your question on the air, guys. Make sure you throw it out there, man. The more questions, the better. We try to choose the best ones. We have a good group of guys that already ask really good questions every week, so it's time to get some new blood in here as well. So make sure you throw your questions out there. Now it's time, guys, for the last part of the show. It's the community question of the week. And this week, our community question of the week, we like these to be a little wonky sometimes, man. Not just like, oh, who's the best linebacker that ever played college football? We all have our opinion on that. Which college football player, but we're going to expand this a little bit too. Which football player would have made the best professional wrestler? Now, guys, we get it. There's a lot of college football players that wrestled. We know The Rock. We know Roman Reigns. He was all ACC at Georgia Tech. We know Ron Simmons. Even though he played at Florida State, was a damn fine wrestler. And of course, our very own Thaddeus Bullard. You might know him now as Titus O'Neil. Great wrestlers. But who is somebody that didn't wrestle that might make now? There's still time for some of these guys to become wrestlers. Or guys from the past. And I'm going to start right off with our man, David Soderquist. You know him from the Getting Swamp podcast. His pick, and I thought this was an awesome one, was Lyle Alzado. If you don't know who Lyle Alzado is, Google him up. Lyle Alzado was a crazy man back when the Raiders were respected and feared. And I can't say enough. I think that is an absolute great pick with Lyle Alzado. He would have definitely had some wild persona they would have wrapped him into.
Not to mention too, they did a sitcom that only ran for like one season in like 1988 called Learning the Ropes, and Lyle Alzado played a teacher that wrestled at night to make money or whatever. So I thought that was
I remember that. Yep. Gator Swamper said Wilbur Marshall. Wilbur Marshall had a pretty damn good football career, but I could see that. Big, strong guy. I love this one. Swagadelic on Twitter says there's only one right answer. Desmond Watson.
Big
Hey,
Dez.
man. Hey, Big Dez. If the NFL don't work out, you might have a career. You might be the next Mabel. If y'all know who Mabel is out there, Mabel was a very gigantic human being or an earthquake.
Rikishi.
Yeah, Rikishi.
Yeah, modern day Rikishi. The picture we had on our graphic was Brian Bosworth, and if you don't know anything about Brian Bosworth was an original college football personality. Didn't quite pan out in the pros. Got drafted by Seattle, but was well known for his blonde mohawk. He was a personality in his own right, playing for the Sooners in the 80s. CJ picked that one out. I know he would have been a damn fine one. Here's one. This is really actually one of my favorite answers. And, hey, guess what? Justin Wood dropped this one as well. Justin Wood doesn't miss. Dominique Easley. And I'm going to tell you right now, Dominique Easley with the chain that he used to wear could have made him like Junkyard Dog Jr. or something like that. Heck yeah, man. I could see that. My man, our buddy Christopher Zen put John Randall.
Yeah.
John Randall would have been like Ultimate Warrior 2 with that face paint he had on.
Mean dude. Mean.
Yeah,
nasty.
mean as a damn. Oh my God, he was a mean ass. CJ, who you got in mind?
I can go in multiple different directions with this. My first thought came to mind was the Pouncey twins, just because that would have been
that'd have been a great tag team.
Tag team to come out. But I think the number one answer I have, and this might upset a lot of people, it's Antonio Brown. If there was ever a man who was made to be a heel in professional wrestling, it's Antonio Brown. The dude is out
even
there.
If he was a manager.
Even if he was a manager, the dude's huge. He's tall. He's jacked. He's ridiculous. He had the Hulk Hogan Fu Manchu for a while. I mean, man, dude, there's no way you can't convince me that you would not turn on the TV to watch Antonio Brown wrestle.
He would be a hell of a heel. You're right. That's a great pick. Wes, I know you had a couple guys in mind.
Yeah, I'm going to go new school as well. Current NFL player, just because I saw him. I'm not a Kansas City fan, but I saw him on the mic talking a whole lot of trash after they won. And to me, the best wrestlers had that showmanship to be able to control the mic. That's why The Rock is my favorite of all time. Him, Scott Hall. But I'm with. I'm gonna go with Travis Kelce, just because he's a tight end, so he has the body. He's like 6'4", 6'5", and he has the microphone skill. He's talking trash, so I'm gonna go with Travis Kelce on this one.
Travis is a good one. I missed one. Our man Gator Commander Tuss put Troy Polamalu could have been the next Jimmy Superfly Snuka, and I sure can see that. Same body type, same size, hair, all of that, man. I mean, he would have been great. A guy that's currently out there that's a huge wrestling fan, and I'm not talking about Gronk, because Gronk's actually done a little WWE work. George Kittle, man. George Kittle is a huge wrestling fan. He shows up to events all the time. He's a wild man, got the hair going on and all that stuff. I'm sure he's probably already fielded a few calls saying, hey, that football thing don't work out for you. we might need you over here. All right, guys, we appreciate all the cool responses, man. We like doing questions like this. Gives everybody a chance to be interacting with us and whatnot. We'll try to have a real good one for you next week to provoke some thought and get some good answers. And, man, we appreciate y'all sending in your questions and whatnot, and keep sending them, man. We really like doing this. This, as always, will be for YouTube only. So if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, today's the day, man. Go ahead, hit that subscribe button, hit the like, leave us a comment, and make sure you hit notification bell so you get a notification every time we drop a new video. And with that being said, guys, we appreciate y'all. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for your questions, and go Gators.
Go Gators.
Go Gators.